Okay, so we are live with the Node.js release working group meeting on the 4th of November 2021. We will work from the agenda, which is in the Node.js release issue. It's issue 709. And to start off, I think we'll ask, are there any announcements anyone would like to make? Okay, I guess I'll move on to sharing our schedules and we will talk through those. So the first one is Node.js 17, which we've tended to stick with a 2-week release cadence. I think we might have had a delay recently. I think we might have skipped one.
Yeah, so the CI has been in a really bad state recently due to a combination of, I was going to say due to a combination. So there was at least one platform down for maintenance, but I think the majority of the flakiness has been sort of tests. So we are seeing a lot of test failures recently, and they will kind of need to be looked at. There's various issues opened. I think Windows has been particularly bad. There's been a lot of test timeouts, and we're not quite sure yet why that is. Michael couldn't get a sort of confidence that we could get clean CI runs on things that needed to be landed, or even a release proposal. So I think that's been postponed.
Yeah, fair enough. So the next one we're looking at, I guess that date's already passed, so we should edit that one out. I guess leave it blank. If not, our next scheduled one will be the 16th, which is probably okay. If someone has time to do one, maybe next Tuesday, it might be worth doing, but based on our availability, if that's not possible, then I think 16th is fine. Would anyone on the call have capacity to do a current release maybe next week, aiming for the 11th? I guess it would be. Would it be the 11th?
The 11th is next Thursday.
Thursday, 9th.
So I'm actually here on Datadog's behalf, my new employer. We're trying to figure out if we should join the release team. I don't think we could onboard in that amount of time, but we do have a little bit of bandwidth for anything after that.
I mean, for what it's worth, oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to say that sounds really good. And just to mention that we were thinking of starting up the onboarding sessions again. So hopefully we would be able to tie that in and bring some of your folks onto the onboarding sessions to get people up to speed.
Okay.
Anything to add, Miles? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it takes a while for us to ramp folks up anyways. So I don't think that, at least in my opinion, that there would be an expectation of being able to help with the next release. So I was going to say, if folks are wanting to get involved, that is one of the things where we could, maybe you could audit folks who are doing the work, or whoever wanted to get involved can, help out with that stuff. But I don't know what we've done for the most recent onboarded release managers, but usually that process takes a number of weeks and over a month to kind of get to the point where you could be leading your own release.
We tag an item onto the end of the agenda to talk about how we're going to proceed with these onboarding sessions, maybe set an action or something for a doodle poll. But either way, I'm going to leave this at the 16th. We'll see when Michael is around, see if he can pick up the next one and just see which date that lies on. But if not, the following release is 16th. So I think we should be okay there. As for 16, I guess we haven't scheduled them yet. Typically, we've gone for a monthly cadence. Do you think we should stick to that? Maybe we should expand this a little bit here today.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not exactly sure what landed in 17 that hasn't made it into 16 that isn't sort of a major. Because obviously now it's in main now we're in LTS. We sort of expect things to be in current. So
and well, we haven't had a current for a little while.
Well, current was the Node 17 release and 17.01, which was the sort of quick fix up. So yeah, it's
I guess if we are doing one, it'd be towards the end of November for it to include anything meaningful and to be worth doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we aim for towards the end of November, if we do manage to get a 17 release out next week or even the 16th, then yeah,
we can
that'd be, yeah.
30th of November is a Tuesday, so that works. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I may be able to volunteer with that. I'm just going to check some holiday dates I have coming up, but I should be able to volunteer for the 16 release.
Okay.
And then December, we probably don't want to go into the holiday period too much. Well, we're not going to be here, myself and Richard. So,
yeah, I suspect there's not going to be a huge clamour for the release, but yeah.
Maybe we skip a month and aim for like start of January.
Yeah, I'll have no objections.
Yeah.
That plan.
Because otherwise we would only, if we tried to do it like the week before the holidays, then that's going to bring us only 3 weeks between the November release and that release, which isn't going to really have much meaningful content. So I think.
Can anyone remember what we usually do with minors in LTS?
We tend to go one per quarter.
Okay. Does that exclude this quarter then, given that that's when we did the LTS transition, or would we want to do one?
I would actually say if we're doing one in January, that should be the one that's the minor, and maybe do patch releases. I feel like that would work. Okay, it gives us time to build up the features and audit them.
Okay.
So this would be 16.13.1. And of course, some other things may edit our plans. If there's a major issue, we may need to do some interim releases, but we can address those if they pop up. Okay. And then I think we're probably fine as long as we tentatively know, let's aim to get a patch release out towards the end of November to pick up any new changes that have gone out in current, and then aim for another minor in January.
Okay. I've just realized I didn't add a column for, I think we normally have a column for planned release candidates, but
yeah, okay.
Too much.
We can try and add that in. To be honest,
yeah,
I find the release candidate phase difficult to meet, and it means timings are more difficult to meet. I guess we can discuss that another time, maybe if we raise an issue.
I'm not too concerned with a patch release. I guess it's the minor I'm more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cautious, is that the word? Maybe it doesn't even need to be the release candidate, but it's almost like ideally the release proposal should be open for a bit for the minor, just so people can object or
comment. I guess I'd say kind of like
do them too often. I mean the candidate's good to actually get if people are willing to help test, but it's more of a kind of chance for people to speak up and say things like, oh, this shouldn't land without this other thing, or
Yeah.
yeah, or even if it's just to run the CI and
Have
discover
enough time to
yes.
diagnose. Yeah. Yeah, perhaps we should add that in. My gut is like a week minimum for a minor, but 2
Mhm.
weeks would be ideal. Kind of. That's the kind of ballpark I was thinking.
But yeah, for the schedule, I just basically shoved everything into that current
Yeah.
twisty and
Yeah.
after a new table. So yeah, I just realized when you were editing that I didn't put the extra column in, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Perhaps we pull that in.
I can do that after the meeting. I can just
Yeah. Editing it now live will be a bit pain. I'll save this because I think those dates look good. And that means our 14 release should have enough content in it by January. So that looks good. Node 14, where are we here? I guess 14, 18 went out. 14 is now in maintenance, so I guess it's just ad hoc as we need. So does anyone know of anything pressing that needs to go out to you?
I don't know if there's anything pressing. I have seen things being landed. I have a PR that hasn't landed to backport the Python 3.10 support. So at the moment, the Windows CI fails on Node 14 without the Python 3.10 patches. But it's complicated because I'm seeing other Windows tests fail for similar reasons that 16, 17 master were failing. So I am seeing some timeouts in Windows tests that are not related to the Python support, but then without the Python support, the tests, the compilation fails and we don't get to tests. So yeah, 14 at the moment is, I guess we need to plan, even if it's a rough plan for when we might do.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking there's quite a few open actually. I was kind of thinking
and stuff like callback. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, at the moment, we probably need to somehow get that Python thing landed just so that we can have confidence in the CI.
My kind of gut is like, if it was a patch release, I feel like end of November again would be a good time to aim for that.
Okay.
If it was a minor, I'm not so sure. I think maybe we deferred a minor to January to give us time to decide what to be included and what not to be.
Okay.
So I might just drop that in. It should be a small release though, so hopefully it's not going to be too intensive to
hopefully.
Done the wrong column again, haven't I? And that would be the 14, 18, 1. We'll update that. I think that's a good aim. We can get any lingering patches in good time before the holidays. And then I would suggest, if we were considering doing a minor during maintenance, we aim for January, likewise with the 16.
Yeah, okay. Sounds reasonable.
Should I add the minor in just as a
yeah, probably just sort of
heads up if people are considering asking for a minor to go into 14, then this is the time frame they can kind of expect it.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Right. I suspect after that our minors will be even fewer. That's
the hope with things going into maintenance. Yeah.
I do know one minor that would be desired at least for them, but that time frame is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, that's 14. 12. I guess we lightly mentioned 12 earlier. It's very much in maintenance. It goes end of life in April.
Yeah. I guess we probably ought to have at least one release before then. But then there isn't much, I think, to go into a 12 release. There's one thing on the staging branch, which is CJS Lexa update. And I guess there's the open question about, I think there were some other ESM related things that Guy wanted to backport. Are those?
Yeah, I can talk to these. So I feel like the ESM Lexer stuff is pretty straightforward. Personally, I think similar to NAPI, this is kind of like a tool that we embed. Most of the changes that come to it are for consistency and fixing edge cases. So like, even if there's, like semver minors or semver majors in the Lexer, I don't think that is more about like the interface we use and not so much the experience for our customers. So I think that's fine.
Yep.
The other one there is the bigger challenge, the semver minor change that was there for 12.
Okay.
I don't think it was backported, and I kind of talked to a guy. He didn't realize about what was like just kind of like the policy, and we don't usually backport the minors until we're ready to do a minor. And so if we take a look here, the pattern trailers backport. So that's the one that I'm on the fence about whether or not we should do, and I would like to defer to the team, because like 12 is practically in maintenance now. Now this is like an additional feature to the export maps feature of Node that adds, some syntax to support edge cases, and the general like idea here of why they want it to be backported is so that like package maintainers can adopt these tools sooner. Since it will take some people to get off of Node 12. I am uncomfortable with landing a semver minor like this on 12 so close to end of life, especially if like, our general support stories, we don't support past end of life. And our advice to maintainers is, like, don't support these old versions. Well, it does create a little bit longer of a timeline possibly for adoption of this feature. I'm not convinced that we should kind of be like bending the rules. Like, even if it was like early in maintenance, I'd be skittish about doing this, let alone like right before we land. I'm not sure about that fixed regular expression to detect slash and slash. That does to me seem like it might be just like a full-on bug fix, in which case it's probably fine.
Yes, this was a bug.
Yeah. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I've got things vying for my attention. I wish I could give you my full attention right now.
So I can speak a little bit on my own about the other one with the patterns. The only real concern that I would have is people may update their packages. We saw this with people doing usage of exports and expect things to work. But like Miles said, we're so close to end of life. I don't think there's much need for us to do it. I do think if it was near the beginning of maintenance, there would be a stronger argument. The concern here is we did have deprecation put out, and you will get warnings if you're updating stuff to newer versions of Node and using the trailing slash instead of patterns. So you can't really create a scenario where something doesn't give an error and works in both versions of some kind. We could argue if warnings are errors or not, but
yeah, my kind of gut here is like, is it going to meaningfully speed up the adoption if we land this in 12? And judging by our availability and when it's likely to go out, I suspect it won't go out until around December. And that gives like 3.5, maybe 4 months left of life of Node 12. My gut's kind of, that's not gonna.
So I don't think we need to worry about it because it's so close to end of life. The only thing that we would get, I think personally, of real life value in maintenance mode, not like to give features, is the ability to write something that works in 12 and 14 and doesn't give an error.
Right.
I think we're so close to the end of life that that's true for a lot of features. We're not gonna likely want to make an exception just for this.
Has this landed in 14 yet?
So pattern trailers work in 14, yes.
Okay.
But there's a previous feature where instead of a pattern, which is the asterisk, if you had a trailing slash, it acted like what the pattern does for slash asterisk. So in 14, you get a warning if you do just the trailing slash. So, yeah. That's the only advantage, is being able to write code that has no warnings. That works in 12 and 14. I don't think it's worth it this close to end of life. At the beginning of maintenance, it might have been worth it.
Okay, so I suggest what we do then is we put a note in there saying that we're leaning towards not landing this in 12, and just to give a little bit of
I will
warning and a chance for anyone else to speak up if they disagree. But
I'll craft it in the notes, which I wrote retrospectively, and then so we have it to point to say, hey, we discussed this here, our gut feeling is this, but we can continue the discussion. Like, it's not a flat no, it's like our gut feel is this probably wouldn't be worth it at this point in time. I'd also, back to the like release plan for 12, my gut would be to add an entry for a following patch release, but not following Semper Minor.
okay.
That's just one long table here.
It's probably not super urgent, but I did land a Sierra's update on master a couple of days ago, which we could potentially backport to 12, because one of the security releases we did, which updated Sierra's, there was a small regression to do with resolving server names with underscores in.
Yep.
So ideally, we just follow the normal, land it in current first, make sure there's no major regressions found, and then if it all seems okay after a couple of weeks, potentially backport that into a 12 release if one is lined up for other reasons.
Yeah, based on that, I think not setting us like a November date for this 12 release makes sense. It can give us some more time. We've only, like, looking at the staging branch just now, we've got one commit there, another commit open that we plan to land, so probably makes sense to hold off and see what happens there. Maybe talk about it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but it's worth not right now, but maybe in a couple of weeks, sort of having a rough time frame, just so that we could, if someone asks for things to 12, point them and say, we're not really, this is the current plan. We can obviously change the plan, but if we're aiming to do only 1 or 2 releases, then
encourage some urgency of some kind.
But it's just a sort of, this is what the current plan is for 12. Even if the plan is as few releases as possible.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. It's definitely worth doing at least a patch release, I think, this year, especially just because if we do hit any security releases, just having all the freshest bug fixes on there makes sense and makes our life easier, particularly if there's CI problems.
I think 12 is okay. So 12 is the only release that, other than master, that we are doing daily builds for. So,
right.
The daily builds for 12 have actually been quite good. They're mostly passing.
Okay.
There's just the odd flake that's failing, but generally 12, the CI for 12 has actually been quite good. So I'm not at this point in time concerned about 12. It doesn't suffer the Python issue because we never backported the Python 3 support to 12. So Node 12 still requires Python 2 to build and doesn't even attempt to build with Python 3. Sure. If you want to build with Python 3, move to a different release. But 12, it's been a while. I think the last non-security release, according to that, was back in July. But to be honest, I'm not seeing a huge amount of things that we want to backport.
Which is a good thing. It's nice to have it tailing off a bit before. Okay. So in terms of our schedules, I think we're good. So we're hoping to have a patch release of 16, in the end of November, 14 a patch release, similar time frame, and I guess 12 with TBD, but hopefully this year. And might chat to Michael about when he thinks he'll get time to prepare the next 17 and whether we should swap him out, switch things around slightly.
Okay.
That sounds good. And I guess the only other topic that we've touched upon is the onboarding new releases. I did put out, I think it was on the collaborators discussion, and ask for folks saying who's interested from the collaborator base who would like to contribute to the release working group and maybe be onboarded as a releaser. How we've done that before was we set up some doodles, found a good time for the folks that were interested, and then had hour-long kind of sessions where I would go to that session and actually prepare a release. I think, Richard, you did it as well. You prepared a release, kind of like shadowing sessions. And once folks have gone through a couple of those, next step is for them to prepare a release, which you can do with the access, like just public access to Node. But that first release would be signed by a member of the releases team. And that's kind of like the onboarding release, like you prepare one with a releaser signing it. And then after that, it's just the actual steps of onboarding onto the release working group, releasers group, which involves like generating the keys, getting your signing key added where it needs to be, and getting the access you need. So it does sound like there is a lot of interest from quite a few different places. So I guess the action's on me to try and set up Doodle with some context to say, hey, we're looking at starting these sessions again. Here are some documents that you can look at to see what the process entails up front. But if you do have interest, please submit your availability and we'll try and get some pairing sessions set up. Are there any other approaches anyone thinks we could take on that? It seems to be the way it worked last time. I'm not sure if there's a better way this time.
I'm not sure of any other approach. I guess the part of the issue is confidence on both sides.
Yeah.
And I do know, like, at least the first couple of releases I did, you know, you're trying to be careful, but you always feel better if there's someone else.
Yeah.
Helping you along, mainly because you're not sure what might go wrong or what.
Yeah.
Or even when things, you know, a lot of things are questions of judgment rather than mechanical yes no's.
Yeah, even though our steps in the releases MD guide are like, you can follow them like step by step and get a release at the end of it. I don't think that's enough I don't think you could just read it and pick it up and run with it. Because there's a lot of things that could go wrong, as you say, and there's some things that are a bit open to interpretation. So
I mean, that's not to say we can't improve the docs.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of things which are kind of, we have guidelines and then there's a judgment call to be made. So like the things we were talking about earlier with the DSM stuff, it's kind of, there's no hard and fast rules, but there is sort of prior decisions we've made and sort of gut feelings and general guidelines as to what can go into releases. So
yeah, preparing a current release certainly is also a good way to start, because there's the guidelines are a bit more rigid for those than LTS. So
yeah, well, I think we still need people to do a current release before an LTS, especially the keys.
Yeah.
I suppose that might be something to discuss once we've to attack onto the end of this with the key server stuff, because I think we've still got an open issue in the core repo about updating the signing verification steps, because it's still pointing at the decommissioned SKS key servers. So at the moment, the instructions in core don't actually work to verify releases. So there is an open PR, but I think that's not landed because there are a couple of keys that either aren't
verified
or that
yeah, I kind of my gut feeling now is we should just get that PR landed, saying, hey, it'd be great if you could verify if you haven't already, but I think we should just land this. The reason why I think that would be okay is because the folks that have not verified their keys are folks that are not doing releases in the past like few months. So if people are trying to verify a release, I suspect they will be verifying a recent release, which is likely to work because it'll be done by the folks that are most active at the moment. So I think it should be okay, with the caveat that like we should still try and get those folks to verify if they're still on the release group.
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Okay, yeah, I'll try and post a comment to that effect, and say we should just land this, get things working. If there's a problem with an old key verifying an old release, I think that's better than the majority case where we are at the moment, where they all don't work. So,
okay,
that should hopefully move things a little bit further forwards.
Yeah.
Any other topics to mention, discuss? I guess we have this FreeBSD release binaries.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that one. We used to release FreeBSD binaries. I can't remember if it was Node 8 or Node 10. I can't remember if we dropped FreeBSD in Node 10 or whether it was Node 12. But we used to release the binaries, but then we had issues on the CI and not enough expertise in build to keep the platform running. And I don't think anything's changed in the meantime. So there was an issue in build about, so at the moment FreeBSD is tier 3, which means we don't produce binaries for it. But there was an issue open in build to try and get, to discuss what needed to happen to get FreeBSD promoted up again to like tier 2. But I'm not aware that anything's changed in the meantime, and that's kind of stalled out and was auto closed by the stale bot.
Right.
So yeah, I guess it depends who's asking, but then also who would have available in the community to help solve any issues with it. Yeah,
I guess the current state is we don't have the volunteers to maintain this right now, so it's not looking like it will change anytime soon. So adding a FreeBSD will not happen based on us not having the folks and expertise to maintain it in CI generally.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tests have been reasonable. There might be one or two flakes, but I really can't remember what state we got into that caused us to demote it in the first place.
Wasn't to do with actually sourcing machines, was it? Because did Join pass us the FreeBSD machines?
I can't remember.
Maybe,
but I mean, we don't.
Yep.
Yeah, we're kind of limited by what's available in the free resources we've been given in the CI, in the sort of cloud providers that have donated resources to build.
Sure, I guess we don't. That one might stay in limbo for a little bit longer. See if anyone comes back expressing desire or interest.
Well, the short story is, unless people volunteer, the answer is going to be no.
Yeah. Okay. Any other things to discuss?
Not from me.
Nope. So I'll try and get the notes written up with those actions, and they do include commenting on the backport, setting up those shadowing mentorship sessions, and such. So I'll try and get those written up. Thanks for joining, everyone.